Shalom, welcome to Kabbalah Academy. Today I have a special word, narcissism. The word narcissism comes from Narcissus, which is a Greek mythologic figure. Likkutei Yirah 9 by Yirah Hari, available on bookbaby.com, amazon.com. If you can't afford a physical copy, we have a free PDF for you available. Where were we? This is the document I compiled simply due to the amount of information that was there. So I will be reading this and writing out. So Greek storyline, okay? The Greek storyline is namely that Narcissus, right? He was the son of the river god, Cephisus. And the nymph Liriope was his mother. In Boeotia, which was a place, his mother consulted a blind seer, Tiresias, concerning the destiny of her son. And the seer replied, "He shall live long if he never knows himself." And that triggered me because I know he knows. This is the knowledge of self. So this is speaking about the seven-headed serpent. So we'll make a full tree, Keter, Chochma, Bina, okay. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. Seven-headed serpent, okay? This is called Zerampin. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Okay, we'll come there more often in this reading. So, but just to have it there so we can continue. So, the knowledge of self, right? The knowledge of self, and that made me think of Bereshit, of course, Genesis, if you know it by that name. So in time, Narcissus gazed upon his own reflection within the waters, right? And became consumed by the image of himself. And this is the sort of reflected consciousness within the lower worlds. So that's a closed system, okay? Where we do not align with the upper, but we see the reflection of the self, which is the seven-headed serpent, and that becomes our persona, and we think that's us, but it's not, because you're not your spirit form, you're not your desire form, you're not your holy form, you're not your soul form, you're not your emotion form, you're not your mental form, you're not your physical form or gufa, you are the rider. Right? You are the consciousness there back in the control room that makes choices. Okay, these are your attributes. Okay, so what he saw this as the system, as his God. Okay, but we'll continue. So the following treatise concerns the sort of reflection within the lower waters and the hidden mystery of the self-image amidst the fallen worlds. Okay, there's much concealed within this matter. However, only what is necessary shall I reveal here. Okay, so first of all, let's start with this place. His mother goes to Boeotia. Don't know how to pronounce it. I will write it here. Boeotia. Boeotia. Okay, so a couple interesting things going on there, because Boeotia has the value of 1, 10, 400, 6, 70, 6, and 2. So that's 11, 411, 417, 487, 493, 495. 495 in Kollel is Malchut. 495 Malchut. Malchut. Okay. Therefore, the entire matter of Narcissus occurs within the lower kingdom, right? This is Asiya, the physical world, okay? In example, the world of image and reflection. So now Bhutia has the value of 495, that was clear, which is Malchut. Liriopi, his mother, and that's written as such. Let's put it underneath here. Le, li, ri, o, p. Yes, that's correct. Yud. This is a Yud. This is a Yud. Okay, so Liriopi is an interesting name. It has a sum total of... well, let's first look at this, because Ayin Fe Reish is already Afar. And Afar is dust. And from the dust man was formed, and to the dust man shall perish as food for the serpent. Okay? There's a lot of other combinations. Oref, neck, and Par Ayin, 70 bulls, all connected, but we'll stay with this for now. So, for the whole matter concerns the image formed within the dust of the lower worlds. So the total value here is 70, 80, 6, 10, 200, 10, and 30. Giving us a total of 70 plus 80, 150, plus 6, 156, plus 10, 166, 200, 366, 367, 376, sorry, 406. 406 total. 406. And 406 is many things, but 400 is always hinting at Malchut. 400 shekels paid for the cave in Machpelah. Many occasions of 400, they always hint at Malchut. And so the 400 is Malchut, and the 6 is the Vav, and the Vav is Zer Einpin. Okay, here's your Vav. Zer Einpin. Okay, this is your Vav. 406 is also Ata. Okay, Aleph, Taf, which is the alphabet. Hey. Aleph, Taf, Hey. Okay, and Ata means you. For the letters descend into Hey, right? And this is the Nukva, the lower Hey. The letters descend in there, which come through the Yisod, of course. So, therefore the mother is joined to the lower kingdom. We also see the remaining letters, Lamed, Yud, and Vav. Yeah, Lamed, Yud, and Vav have the value 56. And 56 is the Kollel of 55. And 55 is Kala, which is the bride. Kala. Okay, small hint there. She goes to Tiresias, the blind seer. The blind seer. Okay. It's written as such. Tet, Yud, Reish, Ayin, Samech, Yud, Aleph, Samech. Okay. Yes. Immediately you'll see Ra, you see serpent, you see spirit, right? And you'll see 60, 1, 10, and another 60. 60 plus 1, 61, 71, 131. 131 is Samael. Semi-boy. Samael. Okay? Samael. Samael is also Somael, meaning the blind God. Remember, the blind seer the blind God. So the blind God is hidden in the name of the blind seer. So much for your Greek mythology. Where does it all come from? Where is it really rooted in, right? So what else did I have? Yeah, so the serpent consciousness within the lower worlds, taking the final samech as cycles, right? If we see this as cycles, instead of the permutation we had earlier, we could make 60 plus 10 plus 1 is 71. 71. Therefore, it can be read as follows, right? This name can be read as follows. The Spirit, right? Amidst the 70 nations, within the cycles of Paro, the evil serpent, okay? So that's all found in there. And he, Teresias, prophesied, he shall live long if he never knows Das, right? Himself. If he doesn't have knowledge of himself, looking in that reflection, because you're in a closed system, to yourself, perceiving yourself, your forms, which is not you. So it's not the real self, right? So just like Adam, before the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? Yetzadas Toivera. It's the same. For Adam, had Adam not entered reflected self-knowledge, he would have remained attached to the tree of life. Okay, so in a full tree of life, center column. So now the Father, Cephisus. Let's put the Father here. That will fit. Yes. Ayin, Samech, Ayin, Fe, Hey, Yud, Samech, Vav, and another Samech. 3 Samechs. Hey, we had 3 Samechs in our video yesterday also. So the Father, the river God, right? First letters. Kaf, Ayin, Fe, Hey, Yud. The value thereof is 185. 185 is the Milui of El, of God. Namely, Aleph, Lamed. This is 111 and this is 74, sorry. Making a total of 185. The final letters, 3 times 60 is 180, and 6 is an inkalel of 185, 186. So that's another Aleph Lamed there. It's a dual God, right? A God of duality. I know a God of duality. That's an Elohim, right? The final letters, therefore, reflect the double force of El, a God of duality, good and evil. Yeah. And the triple Samech hints to the cyclical enclosure, because one Samech, if you spell the Samech out, it's always cycles. So these are pretty many cycles. But Samech is written like such. Samech 60, Mem 40, Kaf 20. Which is 120 times 3 is 360, which is the inkolel of Shin, Tet, Nun. Let me make way from my tutor, because he can be a prosecutor, he can be a defense attorney also. Okay. Very holy name, by the way. So that's the mystery of the revolving adversary. So now would be a good time to read a part of Likkutei Yirah, page 55. Likkutei Yirah 9, the safer for all the prerequisites True, authentic Kabbalah as never revealed before. Because the time is at hand. Page 54. Gate 5, the dimensions of the chariot. These 7 forms of Yetzirah are called the chariot, Merkava. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. As in the verse Exodus 14:7, Vayikach shesh bechor rechav. He took 600 of the best chariots, rechav. The 600 chariots are thus divided. Each of the forms personify a sephirot of Yetzirah, in example 6. And each of these sephirot contain 10 sub-sephirot within themselves, which are a form and image of a man. It is also known 10 sephirot create a tree, and it is written Psalms 1 man is a tree. In example, the 10 sephirot from the image of a human body. Now the 6 sephirot of Yetzirah, having 10, which are the image of these forms, total 60. As is written, Song of Songs 3 verse 7, behold, Solomon's bed surrounded by 60 mighty men. And these 60 in turn have 10 sephirot, Keter Malchut, totaling 600. These 6 forms act upon the 7th, physical form, the Malchut. So let me point that out for you again. This was the Rampin in Yetzirah, and this was the Malchut in Asiya. Okay? Physical world. World of action. Okay, so let's proceed. So now we had the name of the father, right? Cephisus. The last 3 letters, Samech, Vav, Samech. Samech, Vav, Samech means horse in Hebrew. Okay? And it hints at the chariots of Pharaoh. So you can say this whole name it's really to carry 70 Ein, 70 nations, right? These are carried because it's a Merkava, it's a wagon, right? From Yisod into Malchut, the lower Hay, because you have Yud, Hay, Vav, and Hay. This be Atzilut, this being Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. So carrying the 70 nations through Yisod into Asiya, right? And then Yud, we have a Yud and a Samech. And the 10 times 60, we just read it. 10 times 60 is 600. 600 and closes with sus, horses. So it cannot be any clearer. So it carry the 70 through Yisod into the Malchut, lower Hay, 600 horses. Okay. So that should be clear. The whole name totals 371, hinting to the 370 flaming lights, right? Ein Shin. But that's for all other study. We're not going into that now. Ein Shin. These are great concepts. This river god, of course, his father is Pharaoh, right? The flow of consciousness descending into the waters of reflection. Therefore, Narcissist gazes into the water, beholding Pharaoh, the god of the Nile. Right, he's the god of the river, right? So that's the Nile, the serpent voice, meaning the self beholds the image and mistakes it for the source, and that's what you read in Likkutei also. Very great detail explained how the cumulative sum of experiences, like tarnish on silver, right? How that forms the Zoyamar forms the serpent. So and the serpent eats the dust. So that's the system. This becomes the voice in your head that tells you that you can know what is righteous. To know the self. I know the self. I am a good person. I can do. If we will all just love each other, then definitely we'll kill a couple of million people more than we already did in the name of love, because the greatest evil is always done in the name of what people truly believe to be righteous and just. People don't mass murder people out of hatred. They do it because they believe in what they stand for and think it is the best thing to do it. And so everyone thinks to know what is good and righteous, and we don't, because Hashem's ways are not your ways and Hashem's thoughts are not your thoughts. We need Torah. You do not know what is good and righteous by yourself. You don't. You don't. That is serpent voice. If you think you're in a good place and you think you can be a good person, you're mistaken. You're greatly mistaken. So there's a lot of work to do. You ought to do what God said, right? What God says. We ought to do what God says. We ought to do what God says. So, yes, so where were we? So the self beholds the image and mistakes it for the source. And that's the real side of idolatry. That is your idolatry. That's why it says, these 6 I hate, these 7 are an abomination. This is the biggest idol there is, right? For the reflected image becomes deified within the lower waters. So, clean board, Narcissist. Nun, Aleph, Resh, Kaf, Yud, Samech, Vav, Samech. And you see, exactly like his father, who was Kaphisus, they have the same last 4 letters, okay? The same last 4 letters. So that's interesting there. So what have I got here? The first is narc, right? And really the root word is also, it comes from this, right? It comes from Narcissus, but it contains narc. So it should say it the other way around. Narcotics, and so being numbing yourself, being asleep, these kind of things come from this Greek concept of Narcissus, where narcotics, narc, is a dormant state, right? Where you're not awake. Now, narki, so that's dormant. Narki is 50, 1, 200, 20, and 10. That's an inkolel to 10, 20, 230, 280. Kabbalah, we do a lot of inkolels. You can take the one for the unit. So 280 is many things, right? 280 is many things. But first of all, interesting, it is the name of Sam Dal Fon. And Sandalphon is ministering angel over Asiya, right? The world of Asiya is where we find the Malchut, the world of matter, physicality, okay? Just like the 5 Sofit letters which came about. I will read that in a little bit. So, we have the Kaf, Mem, Nun, Fe, Tzadi, 90, 80, 90 plus 80, 170, 50, 220, 40, 260, and 20, 280. 280. I'll tell a little bit more about that later. So it hints to the fallen extensions, right? That's why they go down the line of all the other letters, so, right? They show you already that they hit the bottom, so they descended. Therefore, narcissism is a sleep of the soul amidst reflected forms. And the rotating samers, because there's a lot of samers in there, are the revolving wheels of enclosure. And the wheels, there's another word for wheels, which is namely, right, it's also about the ofanim. And we'll see, we have a 280 here, name of Sandalphon, and this is 3 times 60 plus a 6. 3 times 60, 180, is 186. And 186 is the value of ofanim. Ofanim. 1, 6, 80, 50, 40, 50, 90, 80, 170. I'm forgetting the 10 here. 186. 186. Yes. So, Ofanim. Whose ministering angel is Sandalphon? Sandalphon and is Ofanim. There's way deeper side to this. I'm not going into that. That's for another class. You want to learn the deeper mysteries from Yirah himself. Go to school.com/Yirah. That's YIRAH. Don't miss out, really. Even also for starting in Kabbalah, if you are a starter. Yes, we have Likkutei Yirah 9 for all the prerequisites. We have various reading classes also for this Likkutei Yirah 9. This is the place to be. You don't want to learn Western esotericism. You want authentic Kabbalah, then this is the place for you. Okay, so where were we? So, thus both Sandalphon and the Ofanim are concealed within the name of Narcissist. That's clear, right? That's clear. Again, it's also, of course, the Inkolel of 185, the Milui again of L. But we already had that in the son's name, so I found it not necessary to write it down here. The total value thereof, here, we excluded the Aleph as an Inkolel, so it's actually 281 and 186. Together make a total of 467. That's a special number, because that's the value of the chief, the path, and the 32 paths of wisdom, right? That's immediately what I always think of when I hear the path, because 32 paths of wisdom has to do with the 10 sefarim. 10 sefarim. And the 22 letters, the 22 interconnections between the sefarim, right? So, but there's something else going on also, especially in this context of what we're treating now. 32 is something else. And what is Nachif itself is 462, which is 2 times 231. Which is Aleph with every letter with Aleph. I just said it, the 22 letters and 10 sefarim. 10 sefarim, 22 letters. Each Aleph with every letter, each letter with Aleph, okay? Yes, so now the Hey here, the Hey refers to the 5 final letters that were added after Adam distanced himself from the divine to cleave to the material, right? So, the 5, yes. And 5 is not only 5 Safit letters, it's 5 Safit letters, 5 books of Moshe, the 5 senses, because the senses are connected to the physicality, right? The 5 soul levels and much more 5s there. Yes, so Great division of five Chesedim, five Gevorot. There's a lot to say about this five for another study, but then you'll see these five also hint at, because, or shall I do it? These five are also the five letters of the name Elohim. And now Elohim is mentioned 32 times. 32 times during the creation account, right? And this is five, so five letters times 32, which are these paths, right? Nachiv. There's 32 paths of wisdom. Is 160, and 160 means tselem. And that's exactly where the breach is, but it's also where we can rectify. So therefore the image itself becomes the prison of reflection. So now to treat the word narcissist, right? Because we have to read the word narcissist. Before we do that, I want to read a part of the abuse of the evil inclination. The abuse of the evil inclination, written by Yirah H'ari. The evil inclination is formed from the desire to receive and is empowered by a collective sum of experiences that form the persona or identity of an individual. It has been explained at length how the world of the chariot personifying the seven forms called the seven midots are seven vessels, and how these seven forms, spirit form, desire form, higher form, soul form, emotion form, mental form, and physical form, act as garments for the true identity, which is a spark of the infinite consciousness of the illimitable, filtering itself through these various lenses of garments by which reality is experienced. It also has been explained at great length how these experiences are recorded as good experiences and bad experiences, forming collective sums of experiences by which build upon these vessels as tarnish does on silver. This tarnish is called Zoyama, and from this Zoyama the serpent persona is birthed, whose power is in speech. It has been explained how the serpent persona formed by the collective sum of experiences then speaks to you via the mental form, and so you can hear a voice in your head. For the power of the serpent is its speech, as it's written. The serpent spoke to the woman, the body. From here it convinces the individual that this voice is the true identity, and so the person slowly surrenders choice to identify with this persona, by which after time convinces the individual expression of consciousness that this persona is the true identity. The person then surrenders his choice and simply acts and reacts from the impulse of this serpent formed by the amalgamation of a collective sum of experiences. After a time, the serpent, having seized control of the individual, in that they identify as this persona, then comes to believe that it is God speaking to him. So, and that's only the opening of the document. It's very confronting, because you will see, and it is about narcissism, and it's about the abuse of the evil inclination. You will see, unless you are in denial of yourself, that we are all cooked. If we don't go by these paths, if we don't try to cleave to Kedusha and holiness, which we are not that, right? Our perception is the opposite of that. It pollutes, it spills seed on the ground, okay? So this is absolutely crucial, and that's why you are being offered life or death, right? I offer you life and I offer you death. Choose life, because the Eitz Hadas is Tov Ra, the good and bad, right and left column, good and bad. Or are you going for the or yashar, devoting yourself, right? There is no good and there is no bad. It's the illusion. Okay, so Yirah taught us this, right? This concept of the 160 being the tselem, and the tselem is actually here. The Netzachot Yesod of Ima is where the Chochmah, Bina, Das of the baby, of Zerampin are developed. But that's in another diagram here, just to give you an idea of the location. So here are the paths of Elohim. You can see there's 32 mentionings of Elohim. It's not finished yet, but doesn't matter. Here, Tselomim, B'Tselem, right? Levushim Mochim, that's for other part. But these are your 5 letters times 32. Okay, that's Tselem. Nar, Nun, Aleph, Reish, Kaf, Yud, Samech, Samech, Yud, Samech, Atet. So it's a little different in the end than Narcissist, right? So here we'll have all the same. We have, of course, again the Nar key, which was 280, right? 280. I'll just put it there again. Sandalphon. And we have the 3 Samechs, right? Which was 360, if we spell it out, which was the Satan, the accuser, or the defense attorney, depending on your choices. So the triple Samech remains concealed within the word for the cycle continue endlessly through reflected selfhood. The first portion is then again 280, like we said. The 5 Sefit letters is its value, and Sandalphon. That stays exactly the same as with the name itself, because this derives, right? So Narcissist derives from Narcissus, the figure. Okay, so that's why you find many of the same Gematria and figures. So the final letters, though, they are different, right? The final letters here are now 180 plus 10, 190, plus 9 is 199, which 1 for the unit makes 200. 200 is the value of Samech Mem. Okay? Samech Mem. Samech Mem. Sandalphon, Metatron. We'll leave it at that. The rest is for another class. So the completed total here is interesting, because we have a 200 and we did this in Kabbalah. It has 281 and this is 199. But the literal, the exact number here is 480, and 480 is a couple things, but it's mainly Lilith. Lilith, okay? So that's the value of Lilith. And the first letters of Liriopi, some letters of Liriopi hint at Lilith also. Therefore, Lilith is concealed within the completed reflected state. Now, the final page, because then this is the Soid, really. The narcissist doesn't love the true self. He doesn't perceive the spark to be the self. He sees the traits as the self, which is externalities, right? These traits, these are not you. These are externalities. So the reflected image within the lower waters, and thus the soul becomes trapped within the Tselem, which we had. Tselem. And that's Tselem Elohim, yet hidden within the same path is the repair, right? The same, through Ibur, you can, and through a fire offering to Hashem, because it's 7 days, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzachot, Yesod, and Malchut under the mother, Bina, which is the mother's Torah. Also, if we unite the oral and the written Torah, Tiferes wrote on the tablets of your heart, and the earth opened its mouth. Written, oral Torah. Combined is the fire offering, ascension, 7 days under the mother. On the 8th day, which is Bina, the fire offering to Hashem. Okay, this is your circumcision, that's your Olah, that's your ascension. That's step 1 of a very important derech to go. Okay. So, last thing. And achieve, which was path, right? 32 paths of wisdom. Was written as such. But if you turn it around, you get Beit, the house of Nun. I'll make it a final Nun. 50. 50 gates, the 50 gates, okay? 7 times 7, 49 to the 50th gate. Beit Nun, okay? These paths lead to 50th gate. Okay, so what else have I got to say here? Thus, through the same gate by which the soul descended, the soul may ascend towards the 50th gate. And this is the sort of he shall live long if he never knows himself. So that's what this blind seer told his mother, right? So had man not separated himself through reflected knowledge of oneself, yes, he was wise of himself. You, like the serpent told him, the day you eat from me, you will have knowledge, right? Like Hashem. That was the trick. He would have remained attached to the hidden light above all images. So that's the message for today. I hope this was helpful. Many blessings till the next video. Shalom.